Welcome. Welcome to the Charlotte Singleton Show. I am Charlotte Singleton, your host, and I'm so glad that you decided that you chose to tune in with us today. There are so many things that you could be doing right now, and yet you're giving us the privilege of your time. And I promise you, it will be well worth it. Tonight, we are talking about marriage and passing the test of time. And this comes because 2 days from now, on January the 27th, my husband, Pastor Chuck Singleton, and myself will be celebrating 50 years of marriage. So I guess we could say that we have passed the test of time up to this point. And so I'm here with my sister, my co-host, Diana Marie Litt. You gonna say hi?
Hi. Hi.
Okay, yeah, when I say your name, that means you're supposed to say hello. Anyhow, and so we're going to be talking about marriage. As I said, I've been married for 50 years this coming Friday. And Diana, how long have you and John been married?
38 years.
38 years old. And your anniversary, wait a minute, don't tell me. I think it's August 31st?
August 30th.
Well, I was almost right.
Almost.
Okay.
Almost doesn't count.
Yes, it does. I got the right month. I got in the 30s.
Okay, so August 30th, you're right.
Okay.
I apologize.
Okay.
August 30th.
August the 30th. So you'll be married 39 years.
It'll be 38 years August 30th.
It'll be 38 years on August the 30th. Wow. So I love this title. You know, it came from Ken,
Yeah.
Mom Brewington's son, Passing the Test of Time. So I'm looking at marriage, and we talked a little bit about this last week, just about marriage and you know what? I don't usually do this on the show, but today I really feel like I should.
Okay.
Because we rushed down here. And so, Lord Jesus, would this show be enlightening for everyone who's watching it? Would you give people answers and encouragement and insight in the name of Jesus? Amen.
Amen.
All right. So, gotta pray.
Always.
Always. Okay, so last week we were talking about marriage and standing the test of time. And we know that you are on your second marriage, you and John.
Yes.
And we both call our husbands, you call Pastor Chuck your brother-in-love.
Yes.
And I call John my brother-in-love. I used to call him brother-in-law.
In-law, right.
And now I call him brother-in-love like
Right.
you. And so you and John have been married, so this is your second marriage.
Yes.
But you had a first marriage.
Right.
And I want to ask you, because you said you wouldn't have gotten married as young as you did. Did that have something to do with why your marriage did not last, as opposed to this marriage that's 38 years? What's the difference?
For one thing, when you're young, you're so inexperienced. You don't know nothing about nothing.
I like that.
And when you're young, you have a tendency not to listen to your parents.
Yes.
As well, which
Yeah.
in my case, I did not do.
Right.
But I would not advise anyone to get married as a teenager. I was actually 18 when I got married the first time,
Right.
which was totally too young. I didn't even know myself.
And you had just turned
I had just turned
I thought
18.
you were 17, so you had just
I had
turned
just
18.
turned 18.
Okay.
And you don't even know yourself.
Right.
And then you take on the responsibility of being a wife and then a mother. There's just no way. And then you're learning each other. Even though we dated for a couple of years prior to getting married, we still, there were still things that were red flags.
Right.
That I just ignored.
Right.
Which I would have never done had I done it at a later age.
I've talked to so many women over the years, especially when I'm counseling. When I'm counseling a woman, and when I'm counseling a woman, and she's giving me, telling me what's going on. I've asked women so many times, did you see this when you were dating? Oh, no, 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 I didn't. And then no, no, no. I want you to stop. And I want you to honestly tell me you didn't see any of the signs for this. I've never had a woman tell me she didn't after she really thinks. And a lot of times it is because people just don't listen to their parents.
Exactly.
They don't listen to their friends. And you know my famous one, I say, that man came along, your parents told you that was the wrong man, your friends told you that was the wrong man, even the dog barked. The dog tried to tell you that was the wrong man, and you didn't listen.
You ignored it.
And some of that, I think, is society. As women get older, I think it's society putting pressure on them. I think when they're younger, it's just, I'm going to do what I want to do. Because kids think their parents are like dodos.
Like they don't know anything.
Yeah, they're like dodo birds, you know. And
But he was fine at the time.
Oh.
He was fine and he could sing. And that's what captured my attention. Had nothing to do with anything else.
Wait a minute. Well, let me add another one because I'm going to add one of Gloria's. Okay. Fine, could sing. And for Gloria's our older sister, and he had that fine car.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's what messed up. That's why a lot of marriages don't pass or stand the test of time simply because we're looking superficial.
Right.
You know, so many high school kids. I know some high school couples that got married and stayed married, but most of them don't. It's just as simple as that. 9 times out of 10, I should have looked up the statistic on this. 9 times out of 10, that high school sweetheart, and you are not going to make, you probably won't even make 10 years, much less.
You may not make 2.
You might not make 2. And you said something because I was thinking about Pastor Chuck and I, okay? And, you know, how did we make 50 years?
How did you make 50 years?
The first thing I would say is, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. Seriously, when a marriage lasts for 50 years, it is it's a straight up miracle. And the reason I say this is even if you get married for the right reasons, people change.
People change.
I am
People
definitely.
outgrow each other.
Sometimes they outgrow
Sometimes
each
they
other,
do.
but sometimes with wisdom, they recognize the investment that they have made.
Right.
And so, you know, when somebody's been married like 25, 30 years, and they get married, I'm like, that's like putting money in the bank for 30 years, and then you're like, oh, somebody else can have it, I'm walking away. And you know what happens? And I won't say her name, but I'm going to say something, and you're going to remember who I'm talking about. What happens is, so many times women, they go, and you guys, we're women, so we're just talking a lot from the woman's point of view.
Exactly.
Okay? But so many times, the woman is, you know, she gets fed up with this and fed up with this, and she walks away. And then another woman comes along and reaps the benefit of all her hard work. So anyhow, so for me, I have changed so much over the years. Let's take this weekend, because you and Chuck Jr. and okay, so I have 4 sons, and 2 of them are Chuck Jr., Pastor Chuck Jr. and Pastor Corey, and my little younger baby sister.
Okay.
Wait a minute, before I go to that,
Yeah,
since you don't want me to call you my baby sister, and you don't want me to call you your little sister, and you don't want me to call you your young...
No. I am your younger sister.
Okay.
I am your younger sister.
Okay. Okay, now I'm almost forget what I'm going to remember. Okay, so 50 years ago, okay, wait a minute. This weekend, we're putting together, you guys are putting together with me in the background.
In the background.
And now I've moved up to the foreground of our anniversary.
Yes.
Because I told you guys, if somebody was getting married, you wouldn't tell them, well, come get married and we'll have everything laid out. No, you want to have a part of your marriage.
Mommy did that.
Okay, wait a minute. That's where I'm going. That's exactly where I'm going. So 50 years ago, I did not know I'm a really good meeting planner. But that's after God's Women's Conference for 40 years.
Exactly.
50 years ago, as you know, Mom told me when I got to pick out my wedding colors, red and white. I got to pick out those muffs that you guys wore.
Yes.
Because I had seen that in a Millie the Model comic book.
Oh, okay.
And I got to pick out my dress. I called Mom and I happened to ask her something about my wedding. And Mom said, you just come home and get married. This is my wedding.
And it was.
Okay, but guess what? That was fine with me. I didn't know anything about putting on any type of event.
Not at that time.
I was happy. Yeah, y'all, this could be your wedding. You do this. I'm going to come home. I'm going to be happy to get married. And I was. Okay, but now 50 years later.
But wait a minute. And it was absolutely beautiful.
Oh, yeah, she did such an
absolutely
incredible
beautiful.
job. We had 800 people at our wedding.
Yes.
We had 1,000 people at our wedding reception. And when people were coming through the line, I was like, what's your name? I didn't even know half the people.
No, because Mom and Dad and the Singletons knew.
Yeah, right.
That's
you had
right.
Pop Singleton with all those people from Mount Zion.
Right.
You had Dad, who was in the Beacon Club and any other club where they were drinking. And you had Mom, who was just a socialite.
Socialite, school teacher, and everything, yes.
And actually, I can still remember one of the people that shook hands with me was my physics teacher.
Wow.
I hated physics. I didn't hate him, but I hated physics. It was one of the class I did very well with my grades, but not in that class. It was a miracle that I even passed that class.
Okay.
But I think I must have still got a C. But anyhow, and so, but now over the years, I told Pastor the other day, we were talking about how much we had both changed. You know what I told him? I didn't know how amazing I was going to be.
Oh, wow.
But,
wait, what did he say?
No, he agrees.
Oh, okay.
No. He agrees. But seriously, because I'm not amazing in every aspect,
Right.
but the aspects of my life that I have honed in on, because I always want to be the best that I can be.
Right.
I don't have to be the best,
Right.
but I do have to be my best.
Right.
So I know that when it comes down to events like that, that brings me joy. My friend Kim Atlas, when I was helping you the other day, she sent me a text and she said, you shouldn't be doing this. And I said, no, this brings me joy
Right.
to put together any type of event.
Right.
It just was joyful. But anyhow, so, you know, that, the Bible teaching, the entertaining, the decorating. You don't even know this. Okay, so I am a really, really good decorator. I can't
Okay.
wait till you see the kitchen.
Okay.
The kitchen is almost done after 4 years, 5 years, however long it's been.
The best was yet to come, but go on.
Okay, so Mom and Dad and the Singletons were coming out here right after Christopher was born.
Okay.
Okay, they were coming out together. Our parents, my parents, Joseph and Tilly Clotel Palmer, or Clotel Tilly Palmer, and my husband's parents, Pastor Isaac and Pearl Singleton, they live like 5 minutes apart from each other. And so that's what we're talking about. So they were coming out here, and they were going to both be staying with us. Well, we only had one guest room, and so we were going to let somebody be in our bedroom. So we had been thinking about getting another bedroom set anyhow.
Okay.
So we said, well, let's move our bedroom set into this empty guest room.
Okay.
And we'll get a new bedroom set. But up until that time, we had picked all of the furniture together.
Okay.
Okay, all of it. And he was like the lead person with the furniture. Well, lo and behold, the day we were supposed to go get the bedroom set, he could not go. And I'm like, I can't do this by myself. I can't pick out, I know this is weird for you, because you know, but I'm telling you how far I've come. I'm like, I can't pick out a bedroom set by myself. I need you. He said, Shar, I can't go, and you can do this. I go down, and that bedroom set that we had at Corey Avenue, with the pier cabinets and the mirror and the curtains, all that. I picked that bedroom set out. It was beautiful. And you know what I realized after a while? I'm like, I think I know more about decorating than he does.
Oh, okay.
And I do, because he's called to be a pastor.
He has his gift.
So anyhow, all that to say, there's just so many different things that you don't know about
Right.
yourself when you're young. You just don't know who you
don't.
are. That's, and I don't want to change the subject. I'm going to go back to marriage. But it's like when people ask these little young kids, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Exactly.
A kid graduating from high school doesn't know.
They don't know.
And the average person and when they graduate from college, they don't even stay in that career.
Exactly.
Half the time they're working in a restaurant anyway.
Or a warehouse someplace.
Or a warehouse. Yes. Anyhow, so for Chuck and I, what has helped us to stay together is, one, we have accepted the fact that we are growing and we are changing. Now, does that mean he likes every change that I have made? Or not? Do I like every change he's made? There are some things I'm sure he'd change about me, and there are some things I would change about him. But after a point in life, you realize I'm not going to try to change him because that's him.
That's him, right.
And he's not going to change me. Now, if it's something that we need to fix up,
right.
Then that's a different matter. So that's one thing. We've had some hard.
Do you want to go again?
Hard. We've had some really difficult times in our marriage. But during those times, first of all, we have never been one of these families, I don't get this either, where, I'm going to ask you if you and John do this,
What?
Where the wife takes the pillow and gives it to the guy and says, you're sleeping down in the guest room.
No.
My husband would look at me like I was crazy if I did that. He would say, that must be a pillow for you because I'm not leaving. You know what he says? Last time I heard, it was the master bedroom. Okay, so we've never done that, okay? Two, during the times when marriage has gotten truly, truly hard, and I'm not going to say we've never considered like splitting, not divorce, but no, we've not considered it. But there's been some times we wanted to separate. I'm not going to say we actually even considered it, but there have been some times when we wanted to separate. If he were here, he could tell you his point. I'll tell you from me what kept me in my marriage during those hard times. And people think because you're the pastor and the wife that you don't have any hard times.
Exactly.
Oh, and women look at me like, oh, you must be, you're married to Jesus' twin brother.
Yeah. Like you're exempt.
What would you ever have to complain about? Once again, you're married to Jesus' twin brother. Anyhow, so for me though, I had several things that I would think about. So one, I believe in the first thing was because mom and dad were married almost 47 years. When dad died, I'm like, okay, Poppy and Nana, Pastor Chuck's parents were married, I think, 63 years.
Oh, wow.
When Poppy died. Grandma and Grandpa Palmer were married 50-something years before Grandpa died.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, okay, because I was at their 50th anniversary. Grandma and Grandpa Smith were married almost 60 years when Grandpa died. That's on our side.
Wow.
On Pastor Chuck's side, Mama Sal and Daddy Willie, or Daddy Ruby, were married over 50 years when Daddy Willie died. Daddy Ruby died. Mom Singleton's mom and dad, his first wife died. He was a widow. And then he married Mom Singleton's mother, Mama Georgia. He married her, and they were married probably like 50 years when he died, I remember. And they died those two grandfathers, they died within a month of each other.
Oh, wow.
Anyhow, so I thought about that. I thought about the legacy that had been left down to us because, as you know, there's 4 of us, and I'm the only one that's in this original marriage. So I thought about that, and I would think about, I don't want to break that legacy with my children. So that's one thing that kept me there.
That show that there's longevity in marriage.
Exactly, and longevity in our bloodline.
Exactly.
Okay. Another thing that kept me during the hard times, was I thought about we're the pastor and wife. And I have this saying, what's good for the pews is also good for the
That's
pulpit.
right.
The pulpit can't preach to the
That's right.
pews and say, you guys do this and stay. And the pulpit can't stay. No, the pulpit has to be
That's
the
right.
leader. So I just thought about, and at that time I knew several couples that were struggling, several. And I said, you know what? If we break up, those couples are going to just say, if Pastors
That's
Chuck
right.
and Charlene can't get, and back then our Sister Singleton, if Pastor Chuck and Sister Singleton can't stay together, why should we even stay?
That's right.
Why don't we just go on and get this divorce? And you know what people think? They think, oh, and we're still young enough that we can get somebody else. So I would think about that. There's like 5 things, but the one was that with the legacy. One was the thinking about that. Think the other thing was with my children. There are divorces that take place, and I actually know divorces that take place, and it's not total war, but there's some fallout.
Right.
Even if it's not war, that's going to affect those children.
And it does.
And and I thought about that, and then and there's other things. I thought about the covenant of marriage and how God looks at marriage, and I'm like, wow. And then the last thing is this. Okay. So I used to be speaking someplace in the United States almost every week.
All the time.
I was speaking someplace.
Yes.
And so, but I was home during the week, but almost every weekend I'd be gone. And that was fun at that time, but it gets old traveling all the time. But I remember thinking, you know what, I'm done. I'm done, no more. And then I would look at my speaking schedule. Well, I'm a woman of character. I am not going to stand up in the pulpit and tell somebody to do something that I'm not doing. I'm not going to stand up in the pulpit and be a hypocrite.
That's right.
And so I'd like, okay, well, when I get past this one, I'm leaving. And then there'll be another engagement, and then another. Every time I would get to that point, I would look at my calendar, and I have like 4 or 5 speaking engagements, and I'm just not that. I think that's hypocritical. And so then I said, you know what, I might as well just stay. And so,
Okay.
And I'm really, 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 really glad I stayed, because with marriage starts way up here. You're like cloud 99. Heaven must have sent you from above. Oh. And yeah, that's when you start off with marriage. Then, reality hits after a few years. Kids come along. It's not just you and him. Wait a minute. It's not even just the kids. Bills come along. Bills come along. Life comes along. When you're the pastor and wife, crazy people come along.
Exactly.
You're trying to keep your testimony and you just want to clock something.
Yep.
I won't even go there. Anyhow, so all these things, and now I'm about to, and when I say clock somebody, I actually thought of something. And so I totally lost my train of thought.
So all these things come into play.
All these things come into play. I don't even remember what I was getting ready to say. Talk. It'll come back. I've been married 50 years. And though I look like I got married when I was 5, I'm really not 55.
So did somebody tell you that, or you tell yourself that and trying to make sure that you believe that you were 5 when you got married?
I went to Bible. Well, no.
No, okay.
Okay.
No, be for real.
No, I know I wasn't 5. Might have been 10. I wasn't 5. But on one of the future shows, you know what I want to talk about?
What?
Aging. You can't stop it, but you can slow it down. And I believe I have some good formulas for slowing down aging. But let's go back to marriage.
Okay.
Okay. So,
Okay.
your turn.
Well, for me,
And then I'll remember what I was saying.
marriage is just a lifelong commitment. And you don't realize that until you mature with age, and you mature in your marriage, in your relationship with one another. So many times with marriages, because you grow apart from one another,
Oh, I remember what I was saying.
one person has what they want to do, another person has what they want to do, but they're not coming together. If you don't have that communication from the very get, it's going to fail. My husband and I are best friends. That is my buddy.
I
You
know. I know. Two peas in a pod.
Oh my gosh.
Can't do anything without each other.
No, I love my husband dearly.
Yep.
But you said that you remembered what you were going to say.
Well, what I was going to say was, you start off up here with marriage, but then life hits. And so sometimes marriage is going to take you down here. I think I look at marriage as a graph. I really do. A graph, you go up and you have some dips, and then you go up. You might have a big giant dip, and you go up. But as long as you can look at the overall graph, and the graph is going up, then I think that that's a real marriage. That's a real marriage. And so, so like for me, I love my husband. I'm glad we stayed, because no matter how far down those dips can go, if you can stay, after a certain point, you can't go anyplace but up.
Exactly.
It's standing the test of times. And you know what, Diane, seriously, on a serious note, I feel like this. When people go to the altar and they say, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer, forsaking all others till death do us part, I really think that too many couples don't really get
You're
that.
not thinking about it.
They're not really,
They're
happy.
words.
They're happy to get married. Too many girls, especially young girls, they're so busy looking at the wedding and trying to have the wedding of the century.
Exactly.
They forget that there's a marriage after that wedding. So I think the mindset, I think society, the lack of the Word of God. You see, if you're teaching the Bible all the time, and then God will light up a highlight for you, and I'm going to give the ladies, especially the younger women, I'm going to give them a tip in just a second. You're going to really want to please God. And so you're going to do everything you can to seriously make that marriage work. Now, but there's sometimes you can't. Let me talk to you right now. Let me talk to you who has gone through a divorce. You didn't want it. Listen, you can't make people do right. I've said this over and over. If God couldn't talk to that man, what makes you think you can? So every marriage, now I'm not going to say, I don't think that any marriage ends simply because it's all 100% on one end. I don't believe that. But it's not also 50-50. It could be 10%, it could be 90%. It could be where it is 50-50, but one of you are willing to stick it out. One of you really believes in that covenant of marriage, and they're wanting to stay. But if that person is leaving, you can't grab them by the leg, or like Jennifer Hudson in the movie.
Oh, yes.
You're going to love me. Whoa.
Yeah.
No, that's a movie.
That was a movie.
That's a movie. You cannot make somebody stay. You cannot make anybody love you. But let me just tell you, and this is for you out there, for somebody that's going through a hard time. And like I said, I'm just talking on my end. My husband could tell you how he stayed with me because I wasn't this person I am now. I wasn't the holy person I am now. I love the Lord, but I was young, I was immature, and I told you before I had a temper. And you know that. I had the...
Yes. I think your whole family knows that.
The Jolie Palmer, Cecil Palmer.
Tilly.
Mommy had a classy temper.
Yes.
But she had a temper. Okay. Anyhow, but this is what I learned. Okay. I remember one of the hard times when my husband and I were going through a hard time in marriage. And I just got to the place where you can love somebody, but you don't want to give them love. You can love somebody, and you're like, you don't feel love. I tell people all the time, listen, you and John are a great example of this. No, you're not. And I'll tell you why I say that. When you get married and you walk down that aisle, you better like who you're marrying. Because I'm going to tell you, there's some days you're going to wake up and you're not going to feel love. You better have some like. You better have some friendship in there. And that's why it's really, really good to be friends. Chuck and I were just friends for a long time before we even started dating. So anyhow, during this one time, I was talking to the Lord, which is another way you stand the test of time in marriage. When you're in a hard time, you have to talk to God. Even if there's nobody else you can talk to, Jesus got to be your friend. And I remember telling the Lord, Lord, I'm going to stay here for the sake of my children, but I don't feel any love anymore. No, I said, I don't have any love anymore. And God told me, and God speaks to me. He says, yes, you do, but this is what I want you to do. And I had just preached the sermon on the widow of Zarephath. When Elijah came and he told the widow, give me something to eat, give me some water. And she said, she went to give him some water. And he said, and while you're at it, bring me a cake of bread, a morsel of bread. And then she stops and she says, you don't understand. We're in a drought. And that's what happens in marriage. There can be a drought of love. She says, we're in a drought. And I have a son, and I just got a little bit of oil and a little bit of meal and 2 sticks. That's all I need. The fire is just going to be a little fire. And I'm going to bake this bread, and we're going to eat it, and that's going to be our last meal, and we're going to lay down and die. And because there was that horrible drought, people the drought had led to famine. People all over were dying. And so Elijah gave her this promise, and this is what God talked to me about. He said, listen, thus saith the Lord. He says, go and make that cake, but bring it to me first. For thus saith the Lord, the meal in that barrel shall not waste, nor shall the cruse of oil fail until God brings rain to the land. And that thing hit me, and God said, listen, you have some love. You give the little bit of love that you have, and you give that little bit, and I'll give you some more, and some more, and some more.
Amazing.
And I still get goosebumps when I say this, because that's what God did. And so now, and like I said, the reason I'm very transparent about the hard times in life that in marriage that Pastor and I have gone through is because I'm also transparent about the wonderful times that we've gone through. So we've gone through from maybe, I can't say, let's say we had maybe 10 arguments a month, okay? And there was a season where you either have arguments or you get the cold shoulder. Okay. To now, we might have maybe 1 argument a month, and guess what? Before the day is over, wait a minute, a couple of hours later, it's like, am I supposed to be mad at you? Like, okay. and he's going to be coming on in just a second. But before he does, I want to ask you, what's the best thing you like about John?
The way that he loves me, oh my goodness, John's heart. He has such a giving heart. The way that he has taken care of his family, that his dedication, his commitment, his faithfulness to us, that is just a miracle in itself. Because you just you don't see that a whole lot with married couples. And I think my husband is so handsome as well. But John is true to me.
Right.
He is, I don't want to say he's my cheerleader, but
there's nothing wrong with that, because he is your cheerleader. He's just everything in a man that I want. That's my husband. And I think that says a lot. After 37, almost 38 years, for you to say that, I think that's absolutely amazing. but I still got you beat because I've been married 50 years.
Well, yeah.
I feel the same
But then you're
way
older too, so.
well, I'm older and I am wiser than
But
you.
you're wiser because you've been
I am wiser than you.
You're okay. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
I'm just being facetious. No, you are very, very wise.
But you learn as you get older.
You do
learn.
get wiser.
God gives you so much maturity. He shows you so much.
Yeah.
And then he shows you the mistakes that you've made too along the way.
Yeah.
But because God is so amazing and God has just brought us through, we never dealt with any bad things. Wow. But in our time of financial difficulty, God brought us closer together.
I think a lot of that is because you got married older.
I got married older.
Okay.
And he got married older. It's also his second
marriage. That's right.
marriage.
That's his second marriage. And I think, I don't know for sure, maybe in a second marriage you try harder, even though second marriages fail way more. That goes up. The first marriage is like 50%. Second marriage is the divorce. It's Pastor. My husband would know all these statistics, but it goes up. It goes up
with each marriage.
With each marriage,
yes.
Yeah. And so that's another reason to just stay in. I've said this over and over. How many times? And then we're gonna have Pastor Chuck come up. How many times have you talked to somebody? Okay, you had a friend, and maybe they moved away or went to someplace else, and they got divorced in the meantime, and now they come and they're introducing you to their second husband, and you're saying, wait a minute, that's just the same man with a different face. It's just so many times.
With different clothing.
Different clothing and different faces. So I'm like, if you can, like I said, every marriage is not that spouse's fault, whether it's the man or the woman. And sometimes if there's a woman and your husband is, I don't even like to say it this way, but if he's a dog and he's just going here and here and here and here, and you just get tired of that, but you don't have to, because I hate to say this, but Christians, we're dogs in a way, because we're always going after other lovers.
Exactly.
Money, fame, fortune, prestige, different things. And Jesus is always inviting and wanting us to be back. But we could talk about this forever and ever. And I'm going to now invite my sweetie to come up. And
my brother in love.
Yes. So can you come up? And your mic is right there, sweetheart. It's right there. And so we are going to, how about we do it the professional way? Let's cut just for a second to commercial. And when we come back, my husband, my prophet, my priest, my king, the father of my 4 children, he's going to be with us. Okay, we'll be right back.
We are?
Yeah, can you put this on the chair?
Hey, Lady Di.
Hey, hey, hey.
So this is a black and gold day, huh?
And we didn't even realize it.
And I can't find my jeans like that. Yours are different size, or I tell you took mine.
Get some sugar, girl. What's wrong with you?
I was.
Loveland has exciting events coming up in the new year that will help us reach our world and community. Check out what we have in store.
The Lord is expanding Loveland's gospel reach once again. Beginning on Sunday, February 5th, you can catch Loveland's service every Sunday morning at 5:30 a.m. on KCAL Channel 9. Spread the word and check us out.
Jumpstart your spiritual growth with Step 1 in the 3 Steps Towards Christianity Maturity Series. Gain confidence in your relationship with God and make new connections with your church family. Join us Sunday, February 19th at 9 a.m. in the Loveland Cafe, or Thursday, February 23rd at 7 p.m. on Zoom. Are you new to the Loveland family? Our new member orientation is coming up on February 19th at 12:30. Enjoy a free lunch and learn what it means to be a part of the Loveland family. RSVP by 5 p.m. at 909-356-5683 or email us at loveland@lovelandchurch.org.
Our celebration for Pastor Chuck and Pastor Charlene's 50th wedding anniversary is just 2 weeks away. Join us as we celebrate what the Lord has done in their marriage. For tickets, you can go to the website below or go to the table in the church lobby. Join us as we celebrate this wonderful marriage.
Hallelujah.
Well, thank you for coming back, because we're back. And I'm here with the love of my life, the man that I have been married to for 50 years, and the love of my life. I love you. My pastor, my prophet, my priest, my king, and a whole lot of other stuff. I'm glad that you could get here. Where are you coming from? Because you're always every place. Where'd you just come from?
We just swore in the mayor of the city of San Bernardino, Helen Tran. She is the first Vietnamese mayor of any city in the USA.
Wow.
So we just swore her in, along with the Attorney General who flew in from Sacramento.
When you say that, it makes me think of Proverbs 31, where it talks about the Proverbs 31 woman. And one of the things that it says is, her husband sits in the gates. And we know in the Bible, the gates was the place of leadership, where court would take place, decisions would take place. And so I'm proud of you that they always call you for all these political events, and I'm proud of you, but it does take a lot of your time and sometimes our time, because you're being pulled and pulled and pulled. But that's okay, because you know that saying that I always say, I haven't said this in a long time, but even though people need this from you, and they're wanting you to be in this meeting, and they're wanting you to go to this event, at the end of the night, I'm the only one that gets to take you home.
Take me home.
And I'm going to take you home in about 20 minutes.
Okay.
And so Diana and I have been talking about marriage. And the show today is Marriage Passing the Test of Time. And so the title was going to be The Miracle of Marriage, because there's a miracle for 50 years. Would you agree?
Yeah. It's probably the biggest miracle.
I agree. Okay.
And I'm not saying for us specifically, but for any couple. People say love at first sight, and that's easy, but it's when you have been living with each other for a lifetime that it becomes a miracle.
Yeah. It's that love is the love still there at third and fourth and fifth sight, 5 years, 10 years, et cetera, et cetera. You know, I'm looking at you, and you know what I'm thinking? That after 50 years, I look at you, I still think you're so handsome.
Okay.
And I look at you, I'm serious, you know this, but I'm like, I still love that man.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it. I love that woman too.
So we had some questions that we were asking, and so I am going to ask you one of these. What advice would you give to couples to reach the 50-year milestone that we've reached? What advice would you give to them?
I mean, that's a big question. It probably is a multifaceted question, but one of the big things, Second Timothy 2:24 is probably one of the best verses of Scripture when it comes to marriage, if you go deep enough. And it says something like this, I'm going to paraphrase it. The servant of the Lord must not strive, but be gentle and apt to teach. And so striving is argumentative, and couples get in a posture, a fighting posture. They want to argue all the time or fight, but one can stop it just by, I'm not going there with you. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
Yeah.
I'm not gonna strive with you, and that's a challenge because we think we have to answer every statement made by the other person, or we think, this one is the deeper one, because we think we have to answer falsities. Sometimes a person says something and you think that's absolutely false. I got to tell him,
Okay.
or her that that's absolutely false. Sometimes the best answer is
No
nothing.
answer. Well, and also, I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking that means that couples need to get to the place where they choose their battles. And, I'm always wanting to ask a couple, what difference, and I ask this to me too, what difference is this going to make next year if you and I do not think the same on this particular thing?
Yeah.
Is it really going to make a difference a year from now? Okay, because if it's not, it's probably not even worth it. Now, if it's something that's going to continue on and it's going to be a brick, that's something that you need to maybe separate and come back and talk later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the difference between resolving something or striving.
Yeah.
Because striving involves emotion and anger, or the grudge, which may not be so much angry, but it is an emotional attachment to whatever the issue might be.
Exactly.
So if a person pulls back from the emotion of it and picks a good time, maybe they agree on a time, but when the anger is hot, passions are hot, in the negative, it's probably not good,
Right.
because it's striving at that point.
You don't know this about me. I don't think you do. But even for us, for the most part, I have this 3-day rule. Normally, when something's really, really, really bothering me about you, I kind of just try to tell, let me wait for 3 days. Doesn't have to be 24 hours. It could be like Jesus in the grave, okay? On Friday night, all day Saturday, Sunday morning. But I try to wait 3 days because
Don't make it Sunday morning, though.
Then God would be mad at me. Back in the day, it would be Sunday morning. But now I'm closer to God and I'm not going to get in trouble with God by getting on you on Sunday morning. But what I have found is that even when I'm really, really angry, after 1 day, it kind of goes down. 2 days, it's not as important. 3 days, most of the time I just let it go at that particular point because I realize we're two different people. Now, if something goes in the 4th day, then you'll know about it. Mm-hmm. You'll know about it. I want to ask you a couple of questions. My God, there's so many things I would like to ask you. I'm going to ask you this one first. What do you see is the biggest difference? This just came off the top of my head. What's the biggest difference
Off the top of your head, really?
Yeah, I know.
All right.
I know, because this
Okay.
is a talk show and we're good.
All right.
What do you think is the biggest difference between you and I?
Between us.
Yeah, between us, because you and me, because opposites do attract. So, how are we opposite? Let's put it that way. How are we opposite?
Well, I'm not 100% sold on the idea that opposites attract. They do.
I'm not sold on it that
Yeah,
we're the same
but
place. Okay.
It's not always a rule that your, as they say, soulmate is the exact opposite of you. But in what way are you and I different? In the positive ways that we tend to like,
Okay.
you are a energizer bunny.
You're
Bunny.
right.
Boom, you know the drum beat?
Yes.
Choo, choo, choo.
Yes.
And you get so into what you do, it leads to other things. Like for Edison, you owe me, all right? Because she's busy. She can't turn the lights out when she leaves the room. So, you know, you're busy. But, you know, with that difference, I've seen a blessed growth on both of our parts over the years. I am a person who loves a Sabbath. And when I say Sabbath, I mean a day where you just, before the Lord, chill, rest, pray, do something different. Doesn't have to be zero, but it's different than what you normally do. So I believe in the Sabbath, but I don't, not only believe a Sabbath day, I believe in a Sabbath moment, the
That's
Shabbat.
good. That's good.
And I like to get away from stuff. I think one time you wanted to recently discuss something with intense fellowship. And I said to you, I'm not Pastor Chuck today. It was a church matter, so I am not Pastor Chuck.
Yeah,
Today I'm not the pastor of Loveland Church. And, you know, it was facetious, but it was a way of saying, no, I'm not discussing church. You'd like to go, and let's deal with it. I don't always like to do. So, but I've seen us grow, and here the growth is that you will shut down at the end of the day. That's different for you
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
40-something years ago.
Yeah.
Not quite 50 years
It's just
yet.
different from me 5 years ago.
Yeah, and you will shut down. And I love that. You will say, I'm going to sleep. And you will shut down. I like that. And there's some other ways in which I've seen you take your quiet moments. You also kind of take a quiet moment in working out. For me, working out is a part of my prayer.
Right.
I want to be alone. Even those times when I was at the gym, I would be alone. The guys knew that. Don't bug Chuck. You can ask him questions, but don't bug him. And it's all right for people to ask me questions. I'm not a religious monk. Don't get near me. Whatever. So people could ask me questions then. But now, having developed a workstation at home, it's so peaceful and so much more quiet. I miss being around the guys at the gym. Every now and then I'll call one of them or something, but the quietness of that prayer is important for me. So that's my Sabbath moment every day, probably, except Sunday, oddly enough. But so I'm that, and you're the go person.
Yep. No, and you're absolutely right. Joanne Lovelace is the one that gave me that name, the Energizer Bunny on steroids. Which I was called the Energizer Bunny, you know that, but then Joanne came and she added, after knowing me like a month, she started calling me the Energizer Bunny on steroids. But it's very recently that I have just decided to just shut down in the evenings. And a lot of that was when I had COVID back in July, And I always shut down when I'm studying, you know that. My study is like my Sabbath, because I just love to study. And, leave me alone. But we're very different in that I am very, I'm energized, energetic, and you're very deliberate. It used to bother me when we would go walk, like at the mall or something, and I'd be wanting to speed it up. But I believe that many couples are like that, okay? Like one thing for us that I think that we're different, that you kind of pull me along, is with that TV at night. Because I remember when the children were younger and you were out still winning the world for Jesus, and you would come home later, and the kids went to bed at 8:30, and you usually weren't home when the kids went to bed. But when I couldn't wait for 8:30 to get there, just so I could cut every TV, I didn't want to hear anything. I didn't want to hear TV. I didn't want to hear the radio. I just wanted quiet because our 4 children were so loud during the day, anyhow. And so it would just be quiet. And then you would come home and then you'd want the TV on. And I remember over the years, man, everything I tried earphones, I tried listening to noise with the noise machine. And then over the years, I adapted to you. And now it's okay to watch TV at night, even though I know that's very bad for our health. Are you aware of that? You know why?
No, you're off on another subject.
Okay, yeah, we're off on another stuff.
But it's not very bad if you don't, it's bad if you don't turn it off. You don't have a stop time.
Yeah. Well, there's more to that. We'll come back and talk about sleep habits. That's also how we're different. You get in the bed, and like 5 minutes later, you are knocked out. I get in the bed, and an hour later, I'm still laying there waiting to fall asleep. So we're different in that, but we're very much alike in a lot of ways. We both work out. We're both into health, into working out. You used to go to the gym. I've always worked out with videos from the time we got married. I'm glad that we have the workout station at home now, because I used to miss when you would go and be at the gym so long. So I'm happy for that. A couple questions, because our time is almost up. What age do you think is a good age for a man to get married or a woman to get married? You've done a lot of counseling over the years.
Yeah. There's not a number.
Okay.
But the scripture says, the Bible says this, that with getting married, that for the man, if he sees that his love has reached the flower of her age, that's 1 Corinthians 7. Okay. So she has reached that age where she is about to bloom.
Okay.
I think is the way we would translate that. And so she's reached the flower of her age, and he's excited too. Sunday, when we celebrate our anniversary at the banquet, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
But one of the songs that I will sing is, I have 2 wedding songs. You said one this morning. I have 2.
Okay.
And one of them is called Wedding Confessions. But one of the things that the lines in that song is this, your skin is glowing, and my heart is too. Mm. And the point behind the skin glowing is this, that really there are physical things that happen to a woman when she reaches the flower of her age. And those things continue to happen. Sometimes women can paint it on, or if they take care of themselves, it comes back. Mm-hmm. And the glow comes. Right. I'm not talking about, obviously I'm not talking about the shine that the powder is supposed to hide, but I'm talking about the...
Well, that's the old thing. Now the dewy look is on. For
the
women,
dewy.
The dewy look. You're not supposed to put a whole lot of powder on anymore and look like that.
You want to have
the more fresh look.
Which is the point of the flower of her age.
Yeah.
So the woman reached the flower of her age. Concerning men, the same chapter of 1 Corinthians says, if you can't control yourself.
Okay.
So rather than going from girl to girl, because one said yes and one said no, and one said yes for a while and started saying no, or one completely always said no, really, yes is what you're looking for, but brother, but it's not yes to go to bed with me. It's yes to marry me. I want you to marry me. that is weird to say. You and I understand it. Most people who are old enough understand the currency of a woman being proposed to and saying yes to a man. That's a beautiful thing. But now it's like, hey, you know, you want to get married? I mean, because we're already doing everything, and we live together, and you know, we are paying each other's bills, and you think we ought to just get married? Let's wait till next year. Okay, we'll wait till next year. There's no real currency in that, and it would be hard to convince people that there is a blessing in saying, wait, we're going to hold off until we get married. Wow, there's currency in that. And so the guy who generally has the biggest drive in the couple, the woman who may hide it in many ways, but she can't hide it with her glow.
Right, okay.
And that glow is really chemical, it is physical, it is spiritual, it is mental. It is the flowering that takes place, and you know she's ready for marriage. And sometimes you know because some women are not real moral or shy about it, and they go looking for a man. And then, of course, they get disappointed often because they aren't looking for a marriage, they're looking for sex. They get the sex for a while, and then they start wondering, I mean, you gonna marry me or not? And the guy said, marry?
Why?
You know, what, the old statement was, why would I buy the cow when I get the milk for free? So,
right. And, you know, and that's a great way to look at that. And to add to that, there's still, to me, a maturity level that people have to be at before they get married. And I'm not talking about the shacking up and all that. I'm just talking about just getting married, the holy marriage, when people are doing it right. I personally think that women are ready to marry, are more ready in their character and their habits, their maturity, earlier than men. I really don't think most men should get married before they're 27. And I don't think most women should get married before they're 25. But there's so many mitigating circumstances with that. And so you take what you just said, and I agree with all of that. But if somebody's just getting married because they're in lust, then it's probably not going to work. And you had the sermon a number of years ago where you said, turn, burn, or marry. And that's a good subject, but it doesn't, and it's holy. But so many holy things today are no longer relevant young people don't think they're relevant anymore. But that's also another subject. So, yeah, go on.
Let me comment on that. 27. I don't think it's good at all to put a number on it.
Yeah,
27 for me and the way I was walking with the Lord at 22, 23, 21, 27 would be too long.
Too long for you.
Yeah, and probably for most guys, because our drives are not. So for you as a woman to say 27 for a man, I think is ill-placed.
And the only reason I say that, seriously,
if he's healthy, he's probably needing to get married before that. Now there's some guys that hold, as the Bible said, hold their vessel.
Yeah.
And don't have a problem. Some are eunuchs and they can last till they're 97. But but it's just not good to put a number on it. I think a man needs to judge it. Now I think what's missing is this. What at 18, at 19, people are not, women and men, are not preparing themselves for marriage. And I say preparing themselves.
Emotionally, I'm talking about the mental, the emotional, the soul. I'm not just talking about the physical.
I get it, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I agree with you on that. So they ought to prepare themselves in terms of, okay, I want to find a wife. What does that mean? What does it mean for me to be the husband? How do I pay for a wife? How do I treat a wife? What compromises am I going to negotiate in my life, in my lifestyle, in order to get a wife? Guys need to be thinking about that really in high school, and most people don't, because it is, let me see who and when I can do what I want to do without getting married. But there really needs to be a commitment to marriage. And there are some people who do it. I mean, our own sons, some of them have, some probably aren't saying out loud. But that commitment to, okay, let me prepare myself for this, and what does it take to get ready for marriage? But any believer ought to, if he's single, ought to be determining how is it and what do I need to do to get ready to get married. So here's what happens. I'm saying this too, and excuse me for taking so long.
No, go on.
But then when you do, there's going to be a clash sooner or later. You know, it don't have to be big. It might be, but there will be. The Word of God says it this way in 1 Corinthians 7:28. There will be trouble in the flesh. If you get married, there will be trouble in the flesh. So to think you're going to have a, fairy tale, Camelot marriage where there's never any difficulties is wrong. But that's all right to have difficulties if we're prepared and we understand that there are going to be challenging moments. And here's the key to understanding it under God, to know that even as you might pray, you might be saying, God, change that man for me. That's saying you want God and you want to use God to make your mate right for you. The real is God is using you to make your mate right for him. It ain't about you first. And the reason for disappointment and the reason why so many divorces is because people are thinking, no, this ain't supposed to be this way. It's supposed to be happy ever after. It's supposed to be absolutely, positively beautiful. And I'm having difficulty understanding and appreciating this person. The deal is this. I'm going to say it, but don't misunderstand it. Grow up. That's what it comes down to. It goes back to what I said a moment ago in 2 Timothy 2. The servant of the Lord must not strive. So what happens is that you get in that relationship and God is growing you up and probably growing them up. And so you don't run from it, because you run from it because it ain't perfect, and you find out the next person isn't perfect, or maybe you don't even go to the next person, and you find out loneliness ain't perfect either.
Well, that was really, really good. On another note, or the same note, but it's saying a different way. The reason I say that guys should get married later, it's because from what I've seen, so many times a man is not ready to settle down with one woman. When he's ready to settle down and let go of A, B, C, D, E, then yes, then he's ready. But if he's not ready to settle down with this one woman, forsaking all others till death do us part, then I don't think he's ready emotionally, because we're three-part beings. And we are spirit, we are soul, we are a body. And so your body, a man's body might be ready, but if he's spiritually not ready, and he's in his soul and mentally and emotionally, and he's still out there trying to be, the player, there's a lot that goes into that type of question. And I know I just asked it, but listening to you and thinking, because I've always said 27 for a guy, 25 for a woman. Now, I'm being facetious when I put that age on there, but so many times guys just aren't ready. And I think women get ready way earlier to be committed to a marriage and one person than men are. But we'll have to come back and talk about marriage at a later time. I do, because our time is totally up, but I do want to ask something of you. And I'm going to ask you, so what did you see in me that made you want to either date or marry me or both? What did you see in me?
What I saw, I'd say there are probably three things in you that I like. One, you were eager after Jesus. You wanted to know the Lord. And for me, that was a big deal. So your spiritual, I'll say, zeal. And then it was secondly your loyalty to me, because we were in we worked with hundreds of other young people right out of college. There were, when we first went to Dallas, there were 270, I think, staff.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, and then by the time we got to Explo, there were thousands.
Right.
I traveled a lot, all over the country and really all over the world with Campus Crusade for Christ, with Billy Graham, Bill Bright, building up to the Explo event in the Cotton Bowl. All the college campuses, I mean, I went to so many college campuses. I remember one night waking up in the middle of the night and I was seeing a runway, yellow line down the middle. And I said, Lord, I'm flying too much. But your loyalty was important. So that's second. First, your zeal for Jesus, your loyalty to me. And third thing is I wasn't sure what God was going to do. I knew I didn't want to be a pastor. Absolutely.
I know, isn't that funny?
I absolutely did not want to be a pastor. And I say that as a pastor's kid. But I thought my life would probably be a traveling life. And you traveled well. So we went to you didn't travel with me most of the places, 99% of the places I went, but around Dallas and some places you and the rest of the team went with me. You went with me to Illinois. You went with me to
Ohio.
North Texas State. You went to Ohio.
Louisiana.
You went to Indiana, Illinois, Pennsylvania. You and other members of the team. And I thought you traveled well. So, and you had a high moral standard. That to me was important, that you had a high, if I was going to be traveling, I want my wife to be a moral lady.
Thank you.
So that, those are probably things.
Now, that's amazing because you didn't say anything about physical. And I think that's important.
Okay. You want me to comment on
Yeah,
why?
no, go on and comment.
Number one, I think you're absolutely, absolutely beautiful. I told you that this morning.
Yeah, you tell me all the time.
But yeah, I know, and I knew at that time, I knew other beautiful women. And then shortly after we got together, I was working in Hollywood. I knew a lot of beautiful women, exceptionally beautiful women, who were deep in beauty and an inch thick in spirituality, and sometimes an inch deep in intelligence. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. That's on tape now. But anyway, so I met a lot of women, and I wasn't looking for beauty. I think I think if you were ugly, I wouldn't have married you. She's spiritual, she's loyal, but woo, no. I might have.
We would have just been friends.
Yeah, we'd have been long distance. I would have called you every 5 years. Yeah. So beauty didn't hurt.
Okay.
anything.
All right. I love that. For me, I remember when we were in high school, I was, new kid, Pennsylvania, came to Illinois. And I didn't notice you until your senior year in high school. I was a junior, you were a senior. But I didn't notice you as far as boyfriend, girlfriend at all. What I liked about you right from the get, I admired you. You were in everything at school. We were in the Black Student Union, and you were an athlete. But your testimony, that's one of the first things that drew me to you long before my heart was drawn to you. The fact that you were not out there trying to get in up under every girl's dress. I still remember that in high school. So I loved your testimony. I loved the fact that you loved the Lord, wanted to serve him, and then you grabbed hold to me and Barb and a couple of us, but you would take me, you exposed me. I remember you took me to a Nicky Cruz concert. You took me to something for Tom Cruise. You were taking me, and you didn't know at that time that you were.
That would be Tom Skinner.
Tom Skinner, that's what I mean, Tom Skinner. I said Tom Cruise. Top Gun.
Yeah. No, it wasn't Top Gun or Scientology or something.
Right.
But, okay.
Tom Skinner. Right, but you didn't know that you were preparing your wife, that you were mentoring me in a way. And so you looked at my hunger for the Lord, and you exposed me to so many different places, and I really liked that. So I loved your love for the Lord, your commitment to the Lord, your testimony to the Lord, and however, for you, when you played basketball, I'm sorry, I loved your legs. I used to tell you that. Oh my God, I loved your legs, and.
Past tense. Love.
Yeah.
Past tense.
And I know we have to finish. And then
Yep.
the other thing is sometimes you would have those little shirts on, and I could see the little hairs on your chest. And I used to tell you I love the hairs on your chest.
Now you're getting deep.
Now I'm getting deep. So anyhow, but and I did like the fact that you weren't just handsome. You had this look, and you were funny. You were so humorous. And I used to get mad at you about that when we first got married, when you would have me believe in something crazy, and then you would look at me and you say, "You believe that?" And so so there's a lot that I married you for, and there's a lot that I have stayed with you for. I love your discipline, and then I love why I'm still with you and why I'm still in love with you. So, and I think that just like fine wine, you were handsome when I married you, but you have gotten even better and better looking.
You just did that at the beginning of the program when I first got here.
Well, so 3 is a charm. So you want to say it one more time? Anyhow, so, and I've enjoyed, I definitely have been enjoying, I've enjoyed life with you off and on over the years, but I almost always am enjoying life with you now. And I think that's a testimony to what we're talking about, passing the test of time.
Yep.
Yeah, and so I'm pleased with you.
Can I sit by you?
You want to come sit by me? I would love you to come sit by me.
All right.
So.
All right.
All right.
So.
I'm looking forward to Sunday.
You are?
I really am, to us having just a wonderful 50th anniversary.
All right.
Yeah, and our time is up here, but we'll have time because I'm the only one that gets to take you home.
How about doing that? Take
Okay.
me home. Take me
All
home.
righty.
God bless you.
Yes.
And we're coming to two things. One, she mentioned already the banquet Sunday afternoon, 4:00, celebrating our 50th. And then we're starting a new series in March. It's titled The Gospel of Love, but it's really not so much about romance and marriage. That'll be under it. The foundation of it is always love. What is God's love? What is it? And out of that comes so many beautiful things, including worship, your prayer life, and giving. All of that is a foundation. The foundation is our love, the gospel of love. So that starts in March.
All right. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming on my show.
Thank you for writing me a check and paying me for being here. I'm so
I will pay you. It won't be a check, though. All righty. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye from the Charlotte Singleton Show.